Chidanandji, now you can start. Unmute and
right.
start.
Sometimes it seems to me that all the teachings that we have been trying to understand are meant for a single purpose, and that is to cleanse us of all mechanicalness, to cleanse us of conditionings, to free us from certain unintelligent ways of living. Most of us these days are quite qualified. We have many degrees and social status. There are many things about which we are proud, about which others are envious of us. However, all these are so shallow, all these have so little significance. For when we look at the actual inner life of ours, we are indeed constantly in confusion, in insecurity, in certain sense of lack of direction. Why has this happened? Why is this happening? And why is it that we actually pass on all this confusion and mechanicalness to the upcoming generations also? We have certainly valued something else than what actually needs to be valued. What is the result of this false value or the result of our false values? We live actually only a part of life. We don't live fully at all. This morning at 11 a.m., I had the occasion to be present at the opening ceremony of a new office quite near me, near my place in this Mumbai. We were some 15 or 20 people, and apparently there was some happiness, joy, celebration that a new office premises are opened of a friend of ours. Everybody's face was lit up, apparently. Among the people present, including me, there was one or two above 80 years of age, and one child that was probably 2 or 3 years old, little boy. And it occurred to me that of all the 20 people who had gathered, who did some little ritual and then partook of some samosa sweets and laughed and joked, etc., of all of us, really, that child only had a clear mind, an unburdened mind. All of us adults, while expressing happiness, really had something or the other bothering us. All of us were pulled down by some anxiety, some hurt. In fact, some of us not me, but some among us were already in a hurry to leave the place. And one by one they left also. Okay, see you again. They left. I was one of the people who stayed quite long. I want to come directly to the point now. What made me say that that 2-year-old boy probably was the only member who enjoyed the event of the so-called opening ceremony thoroughly with an unburdened mind. Our adult life is characterized by worrying about future, about past, and I need not elaborate. The topic that we are applying our minds to this evening is closely connected with trying to understand a burdened mind. When the mind is burdened with thoughts about what people think about us, what our social image is these days, and so on, then a certain dullness sets in. When there is no such dullness, there is a certain fragrance. When there is no such mechanicalness, there is certain freshness. That freshness is what is called passion. When there is that freshness, whatever we might be doing, we would do with passion. And this passion also has, as a necessary component of it, austerity. So we need to examine at this time what we mean by passion, what we mean by austerity, and why these are so integral to right living. Without true passion and without true austerity, no matter how famous we might be, well known we might be, reputed we might be, regarded much in the society we might be, no matter what else, our life is a half-lived life. The 2-year-old child was living his life fully this morning. All of us otherwise were not living life fully. We were outwardly in that room, in that new premises, but inwardly somewhere else. What is passion? Passion in a lot of traditional literature is a bad word. It is connected with lust. It's connected with certain selfish desire to acquire, to hold, to self-aggrandize, and so on. We are not using the word passion in that sense. There's a problem of the language. Like they say, the word bark, B-A-R-K, can mean the bark of a tree or the bark of a dog. Nothing can be done about the ambiguity that would accompany the word bark, especially if one does not know the context. Let's once in a while take note of this. Language, which is such a great and useful tool in our hands, is also the cause of confusion in functional matters and in psychological issues also. Even in functional matters. In fact, Somebody wrote to me a message, I urgently need a photograph that I have sent to you November 21. I said, okay, if she needs that photograph, November 21 was the time given. Let me search for it in my mobile and send it back to her. She only had sent it, but she had by mistake deleted it in her own phone. I went to November 21. Today we are on December 29. I went to November 21, nothing of that kind. Again, she said, no, I had sent it to you November 21. Luckily, I realized that by November 21, I took it as the date 21, but she meant the year 21, meaning 2021. Then I went back all the way to November 2021 and I found that photograph and I sent it to her and she was very happy. Then I clarified, look, please don't use abbreviation when you are not sure whether the other person understands the same way you think about it. For her, November 21 meant November 2000, 2021. For me, November 21 had meant the date 21, 21st day of November, just the previous month. These abbreviations, trying to trim things, can many times cause unintended confusion. That is a functional issue, it was. But psychologically, passion could to somebody mean something terrible. Lot of traditional Indian spiritual literature says you must be dispassionate. You must free yourself from passion. Now, they are using the word in a different way. There are umpteen cases where words, symbols mean different things to different people. Swastika, for example, is an auspicious symbol in Sanatana Dharma. Swastika is a terrible symbol representing the Nazi movement or Nazi regime of Hitler. And there is a lot of literature about it. So, passion, let us make it very clear, is not in that sense of lust or selfish urges. Here, passion means a certain sincere wish to know, to understand something, to experience, to see things as they are. So, passion is rather than being burdened with some sense pleasures, that is, desire for sense pleasure, etc. Passion is actually a return to utter simplicity. Passion is, in that sense, so closely connected to austerity. The word austerity also is to be understood carefully. It's not about somebody wearing very less, sleeping very few hours, or keeping silent for extended periods of time. The popular notion of austerity is somebody lived in a cave, let us say, for a long time, lived on just a morsel of food in the whole day, lived bearing with cold, heat, etc. And we say he's a very austere person. In the teachings of Krishnaji, a whole lot of those connotations of the word austerity are summarily dismissed. Austerity, in one of his quotes, Krishnaji says, it's not the austerity of the monk or of the disciplinarian, but to be austere without any cause, without any demand, is what is meant. For others may not recognize it, but those who are into the so-called austerity of the monk and so on are actually laboring under a weight that they have put on their own shoulders. Imagine while going for a morning walk, my eyes fall upon a heavy stone, and I pick that stone and put on my shoulder and continue to walk. Within a few steps, I'll say, "Oh, my shoulder is paining." Who asked you to put that heavy stone on your own shoulder? Right? Likewise, alas, if not 100 out of 100, a large number, 90 or 95 out of 100 monks or padris or mullahs or some other so-called spiritual practitioners take upon themselves something that they pick up from some book or say somehow pick up from somewhere. They don't eat properly, they don't smile, they don't mix with people, they don't see real life. In the name of austerity, they may be going from one place to another, either with eyes down, head down, not to see things that might attract them, or with eyes up. They are not seeing things that are around them in the name of austerity. Those definitions have no bearing on what we are talking. So, what is austerity? Again, it connects with a certain simplicity. Passion and austerity both imply certain simplicity, certain purity, certain childlike innocence, certain light-heartedness at the same time being accompanied, being endowed with the ability to observe, to watch. Somebody praises us. If we like it so much and feel like being on cloud nine, there is no austerity. Somebody insults us and inwardly we start grinding our teeth and resolve to teach a lesson to him at the earliest chance. There is no austerity. These are complicated movements of the mind. In praise or in insult, if we can realize or we can take note of the praise, we can take note of the insult, but we are in a gentle state of trying to understand what is happening without taking it to heart either way, neither going to cloud nine nor falling into a deep trench of misery. We are aware of what is happening. And one more thing, even that so-called equanimity, we remain observant, we remain watchful. That also should not be a thought-created artificiality. Actually, we are boiling, but somehow because we read some sublime literature, though inside we are boiling, imagine outwardly. Oh, do you think so? Somebody called us an idiot and pretending to be very, very calm and unaffected, suppose we say to her, say to him, you think I am an idiot? Interesting. Apparently, there was no disturbance. But was there actually no disturbance within you? You yourself would be the best judge. In simplicity, in this way, there is a certain emptying of the consciousness of mechanical, habitual reactions. So, what is the actuality of our life? All this is easy to say. In reality, in actuality, if you prefer that word, you and I go up and down in excitement or in certain disgust, depression. Life becomes a roller coaster ride for most of us. For though we have read all sorts of all these high teachings, the actuality is we are so easily disturbed. One interesting and humorous speaker said once that some of us are like thermometers. The mercury in the thermometer goes up when the day is hot, goes down when the day or the night is cold. The mercury rises high and falls low. Likewise, we also react psychologically, swing from pleasure to pain, from self praise to self condemnation, and so on. So, are we talking about certain austerity in which somehow we don't react at all? As I already said, that would be an artificiality. One of the unique aspects of these teachings is it's not about forcing a state of mind into us. It's nothing artificial, nothing to be rubbed in, nothing to be installed, to use the modern computer language. We talk about installing a new software in our computer, installing something in some machine, installing something in some gadget, in our mobile, for example. Install that. Install this translator. Then you put any word in one language and you get the meaning of the same word in any other language out of some 20 choices. Install. So, can we install austerity into our mind, into our software inside? Can we install passion? And can we remove jealousy? Uninstall, the word goes. Oh, those are all not applicable here. Indulging in such analogies, indulging in some possible parallels could at the most give us the pleasure of linguistics, but actually it does not happen. Therefore, how do passion and austerity actually relate to right living? As we ponder these, as we try to understand these, I guess it becomes all the more clear that really there is no path to truth. Truth is a pathless land, becomes a statement that we begin to appreciate more than ever before. In traditional spiritual literature of various religions, so many concepts are presented before us, and we relish many of those concepts. Even a text like Bhagavad Gita talks about an early phase where we are into karma, a later phase where we do karma sannyasa, from action to wisdom, from selfishness to desirelessness, etc. Some stages, some phases are all mentioned. No wonder a lot of people are very fond of these concepts and they wonder, where are we now? Am I at the level of action, doing, Or have I graduated to another level of contemplation or seeing, doing and seeing? It is believed that wiser people live in seeing. Less wise people are caught in doing and then enjoying or suffering the results of that doing. So, countless concepts fill us, and then the question arises, burdened with these concepts, do we lose a certain simplicity? Do we lose the passion in life? The topic has many other aspects too. If somebody had talked lightly about us and we didn't like it, 10 days after that, suppose the memories of that unpleasant episode make us sort of drag on with the day. We even tell a close friend, I am not in a good mood today. Why are you not in a good mood? You know what happened 10 days back? You two were present there, we say. How that lady, that man spoke so lightly about me without giving me the respect due to me, and so on. Oh, something that happened 10 days back is making you get into a low mood, low spirits, and somehow pushing yourself, dragging yourself to a piece of work. Then there is a difficulty. If we are caught in that kind of psychological habit, how can any amount of so-called spiritual study help us? So it's not the concepts, it's not the books, it's not the technical terms, paribhashika shabda. It's not more and more ideas, but we can arrive at passion, we can arrive at austerity if we are not reading some book with lot of concepts, but reading the book of life itself. Rather than trying to understand a shloka in Sanskrit or two lines written in Hebrew or something in Latin, something in Greek, saying, this is the pure wisdom. Socrates had written this or said this, and I'm reading it in original Greek because no translation does justice to it. I have learnt Greek and I am reading the original words of Socrates in Greek. I'm reading the original words of Jesus Christ, maybe in Hebrew, because it's English and other translations. So one may proudly say, and one may try to actually understand those so-called original statements. We would say, in the context of the present topic, with the same sincerity, why don't you try to read not another holy book? Why don't you try to read the book of your life? That is, can you try to watch and understand why or how you feel lonely? Can you understand your sense of being lost? Can you understand your sense of having reached somewhere? You have become special. You have gone way above everybody else. One morning you feel like that. Can you look at that? Feeling low, feeling high, feeling lonely, feeling accomplished, feeling etc., are all the pages of the life of the book of your own life. And if there is reading of this book of life, then certain understanding dawns upon us. In that understanding, there comes about a great cleansing, a great unburdening, and we discover passion, we discover austerity. We cannot discover it if we are tied to some goal, some ambition, some set pattern. This is what I want to become. Time is running out. In next 5 years, I need to shape up like this. Alas, that kind of having specific images into which we need to fit, etc., can only mess up the matter. This is a very subtle topic, as always these topics are, for the so-called practical mind says, but in reality, to live life, we need to have weekly goals, monthly goals, quarterly goals, 6-monthly goals, and yearly goals. Somebody may say, I should have clear goal about what I want to do in my next life also. Somebody may say. This so-called goal setting gets into our life. Be clear where you want to go. Otherwise, people will drive you in some direction where they want you to go. So there are people who scare us also. Right? All that is cheap literature. If you have the subtlety of exploring life, you will find that those things like what you want to do tomorrow, what you want to do next week, etc., will all find a place in the general scheme. They are not to be given undue importance. They are not to be carried on your head. Do have plans. Nobody is saying don't plan to do something the coming month. That's not the idea. It's not going from one to its opposite, but it's the quality of relationship. How you relate to the so-called goals. Have the goals become so important that you do not notice the play of mind, or you primarily are aware of what is, and certain goals, weekly, monthly, half yearly, etc., either given by an organization where you work or by your own certain planning, they have a place of their own on a lower level, really. Saying this much, let me pause. In simple terms, the true meaning of passion and austerity needs to be explored carefully. Then there can come about the fragrance of right living. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chidanandji. May I request Harshad sir to say few words? Harshad sir, please come forward. Unmute and come forward. Some problem with Harshad sir? Dinesh Waghmare, now you can say.
Okay, are you able to hear?
Yeah. Very well, sir. So took some time. It
Yeah,
took some time.
the host was not allowing me to unmute.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Fine.
Thank you, Swamiji. You spoke very, very simply, very clearly, and from your own way of looking at it. There are two things which I like to comment on. One thing you said about the child 2-year-old, he was unburdened and enjoying that opening of the new office. That is very natural because children, they have still not gone to school and they have not gathered so much knowledge. So they will not be burdened and they may not be even much aware of what is happening. They are just simply looking and wondering at everything. So that is one thing I want to say. And the second thing is you said about reading the book of our own life. And that I like very much because we can read so many books and gather so much knowledge and concepts, but that doesn't help us. We have to look at our own mind, and initially we need to sit alone and quietly and with curiosity look at how these thoughts are moving, how they are changing. And by watching these thoughts, we begin to come in direct touch with our own life. And if it is done in the right way, we learn in a direct way, and that really helps in our relationship with friends and relatives and society. Now I come to the topic about passion and austerity. The general meaning of passion is very strong feeling. It could be about love, or it could be hate or anger, and it can be either very obsessive or very harmonious. Passion is also connected to suffering, and passion affects our perception. Sometimes passion doesn't it go beyond reason, and sometimes it can be very dangerous. Out of passion, a person does something which he or she may regret later. There is an intellectual passion. There is a passion for discovery. Passion can be very creative. And I like to say a little bit about Ramakrishna's passion, that he was very, very passionate about seeing God or goddess face to face, and he was crying every day. And then when he came to such a point, he was about to kill himself. At that time, he had some realization of the truth or God or whatever, a different kind of uh, experience he went through. And that passion lead to something great. Even Krishnamurti, I feel that very, very passionate, and he was very passionate to communicate what he had found, and that's why he was traveling all around the world and giving talks and dialogues, meeting many, many people, writing. So his whole purpose, whole passion was to awaken some intelligence in human beings who are conditioned by religion, nationality, and all that. And that's why Krishnaji says, without passion, there is no beauty. Passion is not the product of thinking, it comes from very deep, some clarity. Without passion, creation is not possible. Passion is not lust. Passion is austerity of self abnegation. That means no self. That is the real passion. And passion is the summation of energy. Now about the austerity, general meaning of austerity is simplicity, living with very few things. And the root meaning of the word austerity is very harsh, dried up. So it means some kind of control over oneself to live very simply in order to follow some ideal of spirituality. And that is not, Krishnamurti says, that is not austerity. In austerity, there is no control, there is a real clarity. And from intelligence comes austerity. So simplicity is the simplicity of the mind, where our mind is very, very clear and free from all the ideas which we gather from reading books. Gandhi and Buddha, they were very simple in an outward way. They lived very simple life. And Henry David Thoreau, he lived in the forest with the minimum of things, and he was a very wise man. And also Buddha was very wise, and he was a prince, and he could have lived in luxury, but he preferred to live a very simple life. And I see there was no kind of conflict about in both Gandhi and Buddha about living the simple life. It was their nature, and they were one with it. So it was not just external simplicity. And the Krishnamurti says about austerity, austerity is far deeper than owning a few things. Passion is the austerity of self-negation. Austerity is having few thoughts, clear intelligence to see everything very, very clearly. And intelligence creates the austerity. So this is what I have to say, that real austerity, it comes when we see ourselves very, very clearly, and when there is some kind of authenticity comes from the direct observation of our own self. And after reading Krishnamurti's book, I began to observe, and I found that what he was saying was true, and it made my life very happy, healthy, creative. And I decided to be with the Krishnamurti Foundation. So I agree with Swamiji that we have to read the book of our own life, and if there are any problems which comes, we have to look at it, not trying to escape it, understand it, and to be free. So this is what I have to say right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Harshad sir. Dinesh Waghmare, please unmute and say.
Are you able to listen to me?
Yeah, very well, sir. Very well.
Yeah.
According to my understanding, I would like to touch other aspects of these two words. Basically, passion. Passion is basically an energy. It is not only feeling, or it is not only any other thing, but it is an energy which is available to all. But it depends on every person, his own traits, psychological traits, his own psychological inclinations, his own psychological tendencies, the things which he wants to love to do, the things which he wants love to do is basically a passion for him. So based on this, Gita has said one has to follow his dharma. Dharma means what are the tendencies which he loves to do, and he has to grow in them. Similarly, there is another philosophy I found, Ikigai. This is Japanese way of looking at the things. And they also, there is a method for finding your purpose or passion. So passion is basically energy, and one has to follow it. And in JK's words, one has to flower in that direction. Flowering of JK, according to me, is the same thing. Means flowering in that particular direction of your inclination, your tendencies. Of course, those should be in the direction of the virtues. Now, second point, what is austerity? Austerity is giving importance to the basic needs only, and not to your wishful desires or not to your demands, luxurious demands. One has to look for this, that he should give only importance to his basic needs. And but this also creates an internal pressure, and then this internal pressure, he has to remain with it. And when he has to remain with it, that is also known as austerity. In case of Jain Munis and all other this thing, they follow, and this is known as tapasya, that they have to remain with it. And JK has also said, when there are more negative energies available to you, or you are facing the negative energies, then you have to remain with it and you have to face it. When you remain with it, then there is a kind of disturbance which is known as, then when you face it, it is the austerity. So these are the, also JK says, when you remain with that beautiful energy of sorrow, in case of sorrow, when JK was discussing, he said, when you remain that beautiful energy of sorrow, that beautiful energy of sorrow converts into the beautiful energy of passion. When you remain with that beautiful energy of passion, then it converts into a beautiful energy of compassion. So JK has also said, confirmed in a one way, that it is basically an energy. So these are my views. Chidanandji has said that it is a freshness, simplicity, purity, or childlike innocence in both the cases. But these are the other aspects which are also to be looked upon. Thank you.
Shakti ji. Shakti ji, please unmute. Is there any problem?
You have to unmute him, I think.
Okay. Kamlesh sir, please favor Shakti ji. Kamlesh.
1 minute, sir.
Okay. I'm giving you to earn Shakti from you.
Yes. My voice is reaching, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Shakti ji, please.
Yeah.
Shakti ji, please a bit loudly.
Yeah. Recently, Mahadev Swamiji, he sends some quotations of Krishna to ponder over. And I was reading that, and I would like to share it with you, part of that, because in austerity, Krishnamurti is including 4 or 5 things there. He says austerity can only be when there is complete simplicity. Now these things are the simplicity of a mind that has no problem, that is not seeking self-expression, that is not influence, that is not craving more experience. And he also is there, not clinging to old habits and images. So I within myself, and I found myself a failure in all the 4 fronts, because I have problems, I am seeking self-expression, I am influenced, I'm craving for more experience, and I'm clinging to old habits and images. So, in a way, I have learned that, as Swamiji has just said, that I have to cleanse, I have to work on it, and that is Krishnamurti tells us to be aware. And that awareness, that being with what is as much as one can, that seems to be the only thing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Prasad sir. Prasad sir, please unmute and say. Kamlesh ji, if he needs help, please do.
Sir,
Yeah.
the topic is a very deep one and very relevant. I missed a bit of Swamiji's talk. I'm sorry for that. But my understanding is passion, it is very difficult to understand in which sense Krishnaji has used that word passion. But we know there are different types of passions. I may have a passion for making money. I may have a passion for sex. I may have so many other passions for power. I may have a passion to become the chief minister of my state. So different types of passions are there. But Krishnaji, I think, uses the word in the context of passion for truth, passion for ultimate meaning in life. So passion is related to search for truth. And he also says it is related to suffering. Out of your suffering, some passion can be generated. And when you perceive the suffering of humanity, the suffering around you, that generates passion. You are sensitive. For that, sensitivity is required. Otherwise, we don't see the suffering around us. We see only, we see the other people's affluence. We see the other people's power, but we don't see the suffering around us. So when you perceive the suffering of people, your suffering, the suffering around you, and in the society and in the world, when you see the suffering because of the wars, now that Ukraine, let us say, when you see the suffering of Ukraine, the devastation caused by its being bombed, then that creates passion. That is about passion. And passion is also related to austerity. Austerity is, of course, a simplicity, but not simple living in the sense we see that. We think simplicity is wearing a loincloth, not having luxurious dress, things like that. Living simply by itself is not austerity. Krishnaji is more concerned with austerity of the mind, not austerity of simple living. And when you have belief, your mind is not austere. When you have ideology, it is not austere. When you have conclusions, opinions, you are not austere. A search for truth without any platform, that is, without any preconceived notions. So it is almost like being a scientist, spiritual scientist. You go by evidence, not by any conclusions. That is austerity. Of course, that type of austerity, mental austerity, leads to simplicity of living. Your craving that gets reduced. You don't really crave for anything. You don't crave to make money. You don't crave to acquire power. So that mental simplicity is, I think, what Krishnaji is concerned about, not simply living. For me, I mean, to be more blunt, I think he would not regard somebody like Gandhiji, who has his own conclusions, as really being austere, even though the entire nation worships him as a very austere person. Buddha may be different, but Gandhiji, somebody like him, in my perception, according to Krishnaji, he is not austere. He has conclusions, and a mind that is driven by conclusions is not austere. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Prasad sir. Chidanandji, this is the juncture where you have to say something, please.
Yes, I have been very carefully listening to all the speakers. Harshad ji, Dinesh Waghmare, and then we had Shakti ji, and now Prasad Mulupuri ji, and so on. This is the kind of discussion for which these Thursday evening sessions are meant. Everybody should express their views. So by and large, I go with what people have expressed. For example, to look at passion as a certain energy that comes about doing things, being passionate about some work and so on, is also acceptable. However, in the teachings of J. Krishnamurti, the highlighting is of simplicity. It's more negation. Therefore, no wonder many people say Krishnaji excelled in negating not only what is false, but even the frills. By frills, we mean less important things. He sort of emphasized what is truly important, what is the core of some topic, and there could be less important dimensions in the eyes of many others. But the so-called less important aspects, less important dimensions, apparently were not in his purview. He was, for whatever reason, some people even say by divine will, someone like Krishnaji was bent upon highlighting only the essential nature. Once I was in Hyderabad, Naimisham, and Kishore Khairnar was giving a short talk on creativity. This was many years ago, and I must confess, I myself had not thought about creativity. And he went on and came very hard upon even the so-called creativity of scientists and inventors, etc. I was for a while taken aback. And then I realized that Kishore Khairnar was doing justice to the body of teachings that is considered Krishnaji's teachings. Krishnaji did not care for the so-called creativity of these, those who are in science, technology, etc. He, in fact, did not attach any value to it. Suppose 1,000 people think in a certain way, and one scientist or inventor thinks about a certain problem, looks at a certain problem from a totally different angle of view, and comes out with some what generally in the world call creative solution. Wow, he's so creative. He brought out something new. Krishnaji, it seems, did not care for it. For Krishnaji, the idea of creativity also was deeply connected with dying to the self, dying to the separate self. As long as the self is either expressing itself, or even if it is not expressing itself, if the self is dormant, it is just, it's there but not raising its ugly head, Krishnaji would be, taking exception to it. For him, creativity meant dying of the self. Where the self is not, with no other phrase or clause to be added, where the self is not, there is creativity. And Khairnar actually was quite passionate about that kind of interpretation. It took some time for me to let it sink in me. But today, that time itself, after a little while, I deeply appreciated how this is a moksha shastra. This is the science of liberation. In the science of liberation, the creativity that makes life easier for you in science and technology does not have much value. They are all a passing show. They are all, when they were invented, something new came that would have meant a lot. But eventually, all of them are part of the many, many things humanity has invented. But dying to the self, erasure of the self, is something truly extraordinary. And that is connected to the very purpose of our living, we may say. So, coming back to austerity and passion also, I rather look at these with a little broader angle of view. Many other dimensions of passion where you are not stepping on anybody's toes, but you are trying to do something, gardening maybe, and you are so happy to do it. You put in your energy, and you want to come, you want to see the plants come out well, not to make the neighbor look less or anything. No, no, no such thing. About gardening, that of course is passion. But there also, if somebody is raising a garden, let me say this and close. If somebody is raising a garden and no intention to show to the neighborhood that my garden is the best, and my garden is better than my neighbors. Suppose there is no such component, then also we would say then it's not so much the positive energy with which he works that makes it deserve the label passion. It is the absence of comparison, absence of competition, absence of wanting to prove oneself better than somebody, etc. It is absence, absence, absence. Therefore, I say it is the negation that is the hallmark of Krishnaji's very, very pure teachings. You and I generally are very attached to describing something in some way, whereas Krishnaji seems to be, bent upon dismantling what doesn't belong somewhere. Thank you. I think Durga Rani has been waiting for some time.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. I am audible, no, sir?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Yes, good evening, everybody. Yes, it's a very interesting and very deep topic, sir. Austerity and, a passion. I think I'll go by what Prasad ji has raised, the point, it's about seeing the sorrow around us. Sorrow and suffering, I think somehow they are connected in Krishnaji's teaching so much. It's more about that, and he's a very good example he has brought about Ukraine war. The whole entire country is suffering. It's more than a year, and I think a few months is going to be a year. And what is the plight of the people who don't have the electricity, the basic facilities, and because of the expansionist ideas of one country, the other country, the common people who have nothing to do with that are suffering. And not only that, we see the suffering all around us. In our own country, there is no less suffering and sorrow which exists, which prevails, pervades all around us. So, and there is suffering and sorrow in our own lives. The inadequacies of our own being, the shortcomings one feels in oneself, the list is endless. So I feel, if we don't feel passionate about seeing all these things, and if you're not concerned with all these things, somehow Krishnaji's teaching is more and more about seeing all these things and being touched by that. He hasn't brought some kind of a different kind of a philosophy, and he hasn't laid out any rules and regulations or any path to the truth. He says, if you are as a human being, if you're not touched by these things all around you, if you're not passionately you feel for that, so what are you then? What kind of a mechanical life you're leading? So I feel Krishnaji's teaching arises from there. He just touches the common human problems we face, the common human emotions and feelings we go through on a day-to-day basis. So he says, as a human being, if I don't have any relation with that, if I'm not touched by these things, how can I understand anything else? So I think again and again, he brings our attention to all these things. So see it for yourself, feel it for it. And I feel from passion comes compassion also, sir. They are also somewhat related. So it's about, the compassion, the passion. And if we don't have that kind of element in us, sometimes, you feel people who are living a very normal life, very simple life, but they might not have read anything vast, great shastras and all, but they are at the core of their heart. They have that kindness in them. They have that kind of a feeling for the fellow human being. I feel that person is many times better than people who are saddled with this, who are with reading books and finding and exploring and all that. He says you just see all around you, and maybe the things are very simple. Maybe we are complicating things, by reading and going again and again into it, delving into them and intellectualizing them and all. So for me, Krishnaji's teaching comes from observing all around you. And, we, after reading Krishnaji's books also, we feel, we should have achieved something. And why I am not able to achieve something, we end up with these questions, and if we look at life all around us, people who are very simple in their own ways, maybe they're not bothered with these questions. They live life with kindness, and Krishna says, live life with kindness, goodness, and love. That itself is a worship. That itself is a you can say benediction, or I don't know. This is what I'm using there. That's what I have to say, sir. And one more thing I would like to say, sir, regarding austerity. This I have to share here. When I was reading the book of Krishnaji's, his own, he had written his own, book of talks to himself, dialogue with himself, and all those books. There, I came across one definition by Krishnaji. He says, austerity is natural indifference to things. It's as simply stated as that, sir. It's not, we all know, it's not about wearing a loin cloth or, trying to regulate your life with less and minimize your things. Of course, that also may be part of it, but it is indifferent to things. And very, very simply, he has stated that. And somehow that definition remained with me all these years. So maybe austerity, this compassion, passion, all of them, they go together. So as explorers, we just have to share our perspectives or views and trying to figure out and piece together what does Krishnaji is trying to push our attention towards and all those things, sir. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Durga Rani. Waghmare.
I would also like to raise one question here about this simplicity. Can one be simple without addressing his intellectual needs, his emotional needs, his feeling needs, his sensation needs? So one has to address them, one has to cross-check it, and one has to question them why they are there. Unless he addresses them, can he become simple? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
Yes, I like to say that generally people who are suffering a lot, they may not be aware of what is going on around. They are so much occupied with their own suffering. And this I'm speaking from my own experience, that when I was thinking too much about my own problems of what I was going to do in future, I was not aware of the real beauty around me or what people were doing. Uh, we get so much involved with our own problems that we don't observe. And the wars have been going on for thousands of years, and many, many people, millions of people have been killed, but still it doesn't lead to any passion or compassion, but only when there is a clarity and no problems, mind is very, very free and fresh, then we can really see the suffering, and then we can really do something about the suffering outside. And when I read the biography of Buddha, Buddha did not give any talk before his enlightenment. And only after he got enlightenment and there was a compassion, then he went around and began to speak about what he had found by his own meditation, and people were listening. But people who are suffering their own problems, they may speak a lot, but it will not really make much impact on the people. So there are many social workers and politicians. They are trying to do good only in the material sense, but the uh, real wisdom can come out only from people who are free from their own personal problem, and then they can really listen, feel compassion, can do something about people who are suffering. So this is what I have to say. And sometimes if passion goes in the wrong way, it could lead to madness also. And sometimes it can lead to violence, and sometimes it can lead to arrogance. And sometimes people can get carried away by their passion that they don't even listen to what other people are saying. So there is a danger in this passion, but the passion which goes in the right way, then there may be something coming out of it, a kind of clarity and compassion can come out from this passion if it goes in the right way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Pradeep Verma ji, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone, friends. Again, a very interesting topic. We usually come up with a pair of words with specific meanings, words with specific meanings used by a specific person. And we devote almost 1.5 hours to those two words. Even time is not enough. Even this time is not enough to explain those two words. We live in the world of words. So much so the autobiography of Jean-Paul Sartre, if you see, the famous French existentialist, autobiography is titled The Words. So words are important, and we use words to explain words. That is what we do in all our debates, give our views about those specific words, and ultimately different viewpoints we enjoy, all of us, we enjoy different points of view around those words. which have been given special tone by specific persons. Now see, if passion for me simply is emotional energy, how emotions come up, how bad or good they are, and all that thing, but emotions are definitely associated with passion. And then energy, and with even this has been used for Christ's suffering on the cross. Then austerity, 10 different meanings have been given for this one word, austerity, which has been used for a simple word, simply. You see, then what happened, how we started even complicating simplicity by saying that whether it is complete simplicity or incomplete simplicity. Right, sir? So this is what we are doing, different views. Simple doesn't remain that simple, you see. Then we say that it's not simple living, it is simple thinking, as if thinking is apart from or different from living. Everything is so well connected, psychosomatic, everything. The moment you say, no, this is physical, not physical, but this is mental. So somehow this doesn't, I don't think that this is the right way again I'm using. So, and then that's why using very specifically, very accurately, words have to be used very carefully and accurately. If you don't mind, I'll just give, I think few minutes are there. I will just give a small quotation about accuracy of words. This is from a book by Anthony de Mello, Awareness. A beautiful book. He has been compared with J.K. He had dialogue with J.K. also. They are contemporaries. Jesuit, Roman Catholic Jesuit. So he says awakening should be a surprise. When you don't expect something to happen and it happens, you feel surprised. When Webster's wife caught him kissing the maid, he told him she was very surprised. Now Webster was a stickler for using words accurately. Understandably, since he wrote a dictionary, you all might have heard about Webster's dictionary. So he answered her, "No, my dear, I'm surprised, but you are astonished." So this is a very funny note, a very different type, that how we use and what is accuracy. Again, it becomes subjective. So most of the things, they look very simple, and then through our mind, which is been given more importance by someone than simple living, becomes complicated. So this is what I think. This is what I wanted to share. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Shakti ji, please unmute and say. Shakti ji, please unmute and say. Shakti ji, some problem with host or some problem with host?
Now I can. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
My
Please
voice is reaching.
say bit aloud, loud. Shakti se
Yeah,
boliye.
yeah. Ji, this word passion it covers the meaning of intensity, not being lukewarm. And even in lust or pursuing power, people are not lukewarm. So that is something which feeds our ego, and there we are very intense. So perhaps Krishna ji is talking about a passion which is not rooted in self, but which is rooted in awareness. And Dinesh ji raised this question of addressing the needs. That I feel that needs, they, when one is not aware, there are so many things they start looking like needs. So there is a difference between greed and need, and that becomes clear only when we are at least aware of our unawareness. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Chidanandji, would you please have some final comments on it?
Chidanandji is not there, sir.
चले गए. Harshad Parekh, sir.
Yes, one final comment is, yes, are you able to?
Yeah, we are listening you proper.
Yes, of course, we need to use words because we can't just remain silent in a dialogue, but we can remain silent when we are not having dialogue. And in that silence, where there are no words, we can see things very, very clearly. But when we are in a dialogue, we have to use words, and words leads to more words, and thinking leads to more thinking. And sometimes I say that thinking leads to sinking in the mud. So when you are in the soft mud and you are sinking, and when you try to come out of it, you sink more in the soft mud. Similarly, when we try to come out from thinking, we go more into thinking. So there is a possibility of seeing this, and this seeing is not through thinking. So there is a kind of seeing without thinking, which can see very, very clearly everything what the thinking is doing. And that is the intelligence, or whatever you word we can use it. So Krishnamurti's teachings are about that kind of awareness or intelligence, which can see everything very, very clearly, what even our own thinking, as well as the thinking of people around us. And then we don't get caught into conclusions, opinions, but can see. And as Swamiji said, reading the book of our own life, and it is an amazing book, which is being written every day, every moment. The book of our life is written by every thought and feeling. And if we can see it while it is being written, then that is a meditation. Not later on, but moving with what is. And that is a real freedom also, I would say. So finally, I will say that in these dialogues, we have to use words, but these words can lead to something beyond words. If it is coming from clarity, intelligence, like Krishna ji or Buddha, they are using words, but it is coming from clarity. And that is very, very helpful. And Krishnaji's teachings, it helped me very much, because I begin to see in myself what Krishnaji was talking about fear, jealousy, loneliness, anger. And when they are arising, at that time we have to see it, not in a theoretical way. So we have to come in direct touch with our own thinking, feeling, and that requires a freedom. So that's why Krishnaji says, freedom is at the beginning. Okay, I have said enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On 8th of January, topic has come to me, that is compassion. Rajan Chandi will speak on compassion. So all are requested to come on 8th of January. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you. Modak with Happy New Year.